Hi everyone, today we're checking out emotional UX design. How companies make you fall in love with their products and how you can implement this into your own design projects and make the whole world love your product. I'm going to be dividing this video into different chapters explaining different parts of emotional design and how you can implement it. So to begin with, emotional design is a concept brought up by Don Norman, the father of UX design. He states that a good, well-designed product will instate a certain positive emotion in the user while he is using the application and even after he uses the application. So essentially, if the user feels emotionally good while using your product, that is a successful implementation of emotional UX design. Now, emotional UX design is divided further into 3 levels essentially, and this level goes like a little ladder. So the first step essentially is visceral design. Now, visceral design is basically the visual appeal of the application. That is basically saying that it's touching a certain part of our emotion where we like looking at something. For example, if you go to a very dirty street, which is noisy, polluted, has a lot of cars, you won't like walking in that street for a long time, even if you don't consciously think about it. On the other hand, if you're walking down a very beautiful street, beautiful trees, flowers, good sounds and smells, you'll feel good walking on that street subconsciously. It's not something that we notice straight up. Visceral design is also something that happens immediately. For the first 3 to 5 seconds of someone looking at something, they can judge whether it is visually appealing or not, or if something is not visually appealing, they will immediately notice as well. Sensory reactions are basically the same reactions you have when you burn a finger. It's immediate, it's instant, but it doesn't stay for long and you forget about it. So now we know that visceral design is more the visual appeal of the application, how the colors seem, whether the app is soothing, whether the app is harsh. Whatever the visual look or appeal of the website or app is, that is visceral. The second step or second layer is one of the most important here. It's called behavioral design. And it essentially comes under emotional UX because behaviors are often tied to our emotions. So if you're afraid of something, that is an emotion that we're able to portray, there's a tendency we will stay away from it or not do it at all. So that is affecting our overall behavior around that particular thing. So here we're talking more about the functionality of the application or the website or whatever it is. Whether something is functional, whether it is working according to what we perceive. So when we talk about usability or user friendliness of an application, this is where behavioral design or behavioral UX really comes in. So behavioral design can be affected by things like a website's load time. So if a website is loading like this instantly, the user will be able to quickly take action on the website. But at the same time, if the website is taking years to load up, the user is going to get irritated by it and probably just leave the website in itself. So a website's performance affects this behavioral design. The usability affects the whole behavioral quotient of your emotions. I'd say here is where the user forms his overall perception of the app, whether he likes the app or not. The first visual appeal is important, but it does not affect the entire user experience. This is where the user experience really comes forward and people will form an opinion about an application. If the functionality is not correct or if the performance is weak, they'll probably leave the application, maybe not use it again. Here, where visceral design wasn't a deal breaker, functional design, or in this case behavioral design or behavioral quotient of emotions can completely tear apart the experience. So Don Norman says that the last step in this whole understanding of emotions process is reflecting or reflective design. Is the user reflecting on the overall experience even after he stopped using the application? Is he reflecting on whether his life has changed after he's used your product or not? Can often affect his perception or his overall emotion towards your product. So for example, I've been using Swiggy Instamart, which is a popular grocery delivery application which delivers grocery in 15 minutes. I've seen similar stuff in Dubai. I've seen similar stuff all over India as well. where groceries are being delivered in 15 to 20 minutes, which is really cool. And honestly, it has affected my day-to-day activities. I don't go and buy groceries. I'm ordering from Swiggy Instamart, which is saving me time, which is much more convenient. And I get a lot of grocery items I might not get in the local market. And since I have a positive impact in my life, I will stick on to Swiggy Instamart or whatever application I'm using at the time for a longer period of time and actually love or like the application. This part of design also incorporates things like customer experience. So if I book a cab on Uber and the cab driver is not a very pleasant human being, you'll have a bad or terrible customer experience in general. So it does not only depend on how your app looks or feels or works, it also depends on what is the impact on your life after you've used the application. All right, so now that we know the 3 steps in the ladder to achieve a good emotional connection with the user, essentially, or emotional design, let's move on to how we can implement certain activities or certain steps in our design process to ensure that there is an emotional connection with the user. I'd say the first thing is to actually look at visual design and giving it importance. There's a huge debate of whether, UI design is even that important or UX is the king. Essentially, UI design will also come under the whole user experience. So to fit visceral design elements, I'd say go for a good, appealing visual UI. Make sure that there are few to no jarring elements on your visual design side or UI design side. Nothing that confuses people. You can always check out things like good iconography, typography. Color theory would be something, or color science would be something that would really affect the user's emotion. Make sure you do enough research on the user's behavior. To do that, you can always carry out activities like shadowing the user's activity. So actually going and looking at how users are using a certain application and seeing their emotions while they're using it and testing out their emotions is very important. That is a really good thing to do in general. Third thing I'd say is have a good user journey map while doing research and coming up with better solutions for a product. A user journey will help you understand the emotions of a user at a certain stage. So if he's in the login phase or a registration phase, and there's a part of the registration process which is irritating him or taking a toll on his emotions, it's good to check it out and kind of reconsider certain parts of that registration flow. Make sure that you have a good solid journey map with emotions tagged to each process or steps in your application or product. One thing that I take away from an app called Zomato is they often show how they're donating to the environment. They're saving trees, whatever they're doing, they're kind of putting up on their application. And to a lot of people, that is a very impactful thing to them, that they're using that product and it's linked to saving the environment or growing trees or things like that. So having an aspect of donation, aspect of helping the environment, aspect of reducing carbon footprint, whatever you as a company do, make sure you're putting in your product. That way you're telling the users that, okay, we're doing some good stuff. If you use our product, you're also supporting the environment. While you're creating an empathy map, you can often include the emotions a user feels when he's thinking of a certain part of your application, product, or whatever it is. So if you have an empathy map, you have what they want from your application. You can always say why they are getting angry at something or why they are getting nervous with something. You can always ask them, when we talk about Uber, what is your first emotion that comes to your mind? So somebody might say, it makes me feel safe. So that's an emotion. So all these emotions can tie up to your entire user research process or even your documentation process where you're documenting everything. You'll be able to link emotions to a certain part of your user research. And that can really help you out with your emotional design in general. All right, guys, so that was today's video. If you enjoyed it, I post such videos every week. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and also hit the bell icon and say all notifications. That way you never miss out on this valuable content for your UX UI journey. I'll see you next time, same place, same time. Until next time, take care. God bless.